Portland, Oregon, November 24, 1971. A man in a dark suit, black tie, and sunglasses buys a one-way ticket at Portland International Airport under the name Dan Cooper. He boards Northwest Orient Flight 305 to Seattle. He takes seat 18C, an aisle seat near the rear of the plane. He orders a bourbon and soda. He appears completely calm. Shortly after takeoff, he passes a note to the flight attendant seated nearest to him. She assumes it is a phone number. She tucks it into her pocket without reading it. He leans over and tells her quietly that she should read the note. The note says he has a bomb. What follows over the next 4 hours is the only unsolved aircraft hijacking in American history. The man the world comes to know as D.B. Cooper will collect $200,000 in ransom, strap on a parachute, and jump from the back of a commercial aircraft into a Pacific Northwest thunderstorm somewhere over the wilderness of Washington state. He is never found. He is never identified. He is never explained. The flight attendant reads the note and goes to the cockpit. The pilots radio Seattle-Tacoma Airport and receive instructions. Cooperate with the hijacker, keep the plane airborne, wait for further guidance. Back in the cabin, the man opens his briefcase briefly to show the flight attendant its contents, a tangle of wires and red-colored cylinders. Whether it is a real device or a convincing fake is never determined. It does not matter. The threat is treated as real. His demands are specific and methodical. $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills. For parachutes, 2 civilian, 2 military. A fuel truck waiting in Seattle to refuel the aircraft. And a flight crew willing to take him wherever he wants to go after the money is delivered. The FBI scrambles. Law enforcement at Seattle-Tacoma begins assembling the ransom. $200,000 in $20 bills. The serial numbers photographed before the money is bundled. The 4 parachutes are sourced and delivered. The other passengers are told there is a mechanical issue and the plane is diverting to Seattle. When Flight 305 lands at Seattle-Tacoma at 5:39 p.m., the other 36 passengers are allowed to deplane in exchange for the money and the parachutes. The man remains aboard. He examines the cash methodically. He keeps 2 of the 4 parachutes. He orders the crew to take off and fly toward Mexico City at minimum airspeed and low altitude, no higher than 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down. The pilots tell him the aircraft cannot reach Mexico City under those conditions. He accepts a compromise, Reno, Nevada, with a fuel stop. At 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 takes off again. On board, the hijacker, the pilots, 2 flight attendants, and a flight engineer. Behind them, 2 U.S. Air Force F-106 fighters and a Lockheed T-33 scramble to follow at a distance. Nobody on the ground is certain what is about to happen. Somewhere over the southern Washington wilderness, between 8 o'clock and 8:30 p.m., the man ties the money bag around his waist, tells the remaining flight attendant to stay in the cockpit, and opens the aircraft's aft air stair, a rear door on the Boeing 727 that can be opened in flight. The crew feels a pressure change. The plane shudders slightly. The air stair light activates. When the pilots attempt to check on him, the cabin is empty. D.B. Cooper has jumped into a night sky over the Pacific Northwest wilderness, in a thunderstorm, in a business suit, with $200,000 strapped to his body, at an altitude of approximately 10,000 feet and an airspeed of 150 miles per hour. The FBI launches one of the most extensive manhunts in its history. Over the following weeks and months, thousands of agents and military personnel search the wilderness of southern Washington and northern Oregon. Aircraft, ground teams, river searches. They find nothing. The investigation produces one physical lead of significance. In February 1980, 8 years and 3 months after the hijacking, a young boy named Brian Ingram is digging on the bank of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, with his family. He uncovers 3 deteriorating bundles of $20 bills. The serial numbers match the ransom money. The discovery raises more questions than it answers. The bills are found miles from the primary search area. The condition of the money suggests it has been in the river for years, not weeks. How it got there, whether Cooper dropped it during the jump, stashed it and it washed away, or something else entirely, is never established. No other physical trace of D.B. Cooper is ever found. No parachute, no clothing, no body. Over the following 5 decades, the FBI investigates over 1,000 suspects. The case produces some of the most elaborate citizen detective work in American history. Amateur investigators, retired law enforcement officers, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts building competing theories about Cooper's identity. The suspects range from decorated military veterans with parachute training to an Oregon man whose family claims he confessed on his deathbed. A woman named Marla Cooper comes forward to say her uncle made suspicious comments after the hijacking and returned home covered in mud. A former Army paratrooper named Lynn Doyle Cooper, known as LD, becomes one of the most seriously investigated suspects in the case's later years. None of them are conclusively identified as the hijacker. The FBI's own analysis of the evidence produces one reasonably confident conclusion. Whoever D.B. Cooper was, he had significant knowledge of aviation, specifically of the Boeing 727's rear air stair system, which was not widely known to the public at the time. He knew the aircraft could be opened in flight. He knew its operational ceiling and airspeed parameters. He asked for specific parachute types in a way that suggests familiarity with the equipment. Beyond that, the case offers almost nothing. In July 2016, after 45 years of active investigation, the FBI formally announces it is suspending the D.B. Cooper case. The agency states that it is redirecting resources to other priorities but will reopen the investigation if new physical evidence emerges. The case file, one of the largest in FBI history, runs to tens of thousands of pages. It contains witness statements, forensic analyses, suspect profiles, aerial surveys, and 5 decades of dead ends. The ransom money, minus the 3 deteriorating bundles found by Brian Ingram, has never been recovered. D.B. Cooper himself, if he survived the jump, if he reached the ground, if he walked out of the wilderness with $200,000 and the most audacious exit in American criminal history, lived the rest of his life undetected. If he did not survive, his remains are somewhere in the forests and river systems of the Pacific Northwest, and no one has ever found them. Go back to seat 18C. The bourbon and soda. The note passed without urgency. The calm, methodical way he examines the ransom money and selects his parachutes, like a man checking items off a list. D.B. Cooper is not the most violent criminal in this channel's files. He is not responsible for the most damage. He did not build an empire or run an institution or start a war. What he did was plan something so precisely, execute it so cleanly, and disappear so completely that the Federal Bureau of Investigation spent 45 years and could not answer the single most basic question a criminal investigation exists to answer. Who was he? That question remains declassified, which is to say, it remains open. Subscribe, because the next file is already open.